Today we'll play another rapid training game here on lichess. So here we go, 10 plus 5 rapid training game here on lichess. And will we get the black pieces or the white pieces? We'll see. Still searching for an opponent. Okay, we have white pieces against Paparot 01. What will he play? The c6 Caro-Kann. Okay, I like to play Caro-Kann as well. So we have the game. And of course, against the Caro-Kann, I like to play this very tricky f3 fantasy variation. And this is very tricky. Okay, he took the pawn. Now only one move works. Pawn to e5 has to be played. And after knight to f3, bishop to g4 is the main line. Of course, yes. And now bishop to c4. And now only move is okay for black. Will our opponent find knight to d7? This is the only move in the position. Everything else pretty much loses on the spot. I will show you why if I get the chance, and of course we will analyze the game afterwards. So our opponent is thinking. That means that he doesn't know the theory in this particular variation of the Caro-Kann, which is very good. This variation is very sharp, and you need to know the theory if you want to survive the opening, of course. So what will our opponent play? He's thinking, and this is very common blunder. Why? Because I can play bishop takes f7, simply sacrificing the bishop. Why is this so good? I take the pawn on e5 with a fork, of course, and pick up the g4 bishop. And of course, I am completely winning this game. King to g8 is a big blunder. Yet another one from my opponent. And of course, I don't know why all the people play the move knight to f6 here. Of course, this is very common idea to pick up the e5 pawn. And in this position, after the move bishop to c4, of course, knight to d7 is the only move to defend the e5 square. Therefore, after bishop takes f7, I cannot take the e5 pawn, and I cannot play after knight to d7, bishop takes f7, king to f7. I cannot play knight to g5 because queen simply takes, and if I take the queen, then bishop takes queen, and after I recapture the bishop, I'm simply down a piece. And so my opponent played the move king to e8. This is okay move, but now I simply pick up the extra material. And of course, after knight takes knight takes g4, of course I will recapture the knight as well with my queen. And you might ask me, what about queen takes d4? This is okay move, but I think I of course don't remember the theory anymore. I have much better position. I think simply queen to e6 should be winning the game. But I don't know why. Rook to f1 seems okay. But after knight to d7, I don't see any follow-up. Okay, there is this move. Maybe just knight to c3. Maybe bishop g5 preparing mate ideas. Okay, this is very nice idea, bishop g5, I think. Preparing checkmate in 2, of course, with the move queen e6 and then picking up the bishop. And yes, I think bishop g5 has to be the correct move. Of course, my opponent cannot take the b2 pawn. Why? Because of the checkmate. And bishop g5. What about check? Of course, he goes to d5, to d8, of course. Then he can play here. Do I have anything there? I think bishop g5 here is the best move. Of course, bishop e7 cannot be played. I simply pick up extra material. And then I have much better position. I will simply castle long. And of course, the pawn on b2 is untouchable because of the mate idea. And of course, bishop e7 is probably the only good move. There is even queen to d6 ideas. But I don't think this is particularly good. Because just knight to c3 and rook to e1 should be winning the game. What about queen to d7? This is probably better move. But still, I don't need to trade queens, I can play queen to f3, which would be the best, I believe. What is my opponent thinking? Of course, he won't take the pawn on b2, but he needs to deal with the situation. Of course, he is down a pawn, he will have to has his king in the center of the board, of course. I don't know what is my opponent thinking. Bishop e7, probably the only good move. Queen d6 is not as good as I mentioned because of rook d1. And after queen to d6, I can probably simply castle short, of course. And then play the move rook to d1 even. And of course, the idea in the fantasy variation is that after I castle, the rook is on the open f file and I will ultimately win the game because of it as well. What is my opponent thinking for so long? I don't know. Knight to d7 blunders, mate in 2 as well. What will my opponent play here? I'm not sure. Bishop e7 seems like the best move. And maybe bishop e7, king to e7. Maybe it seems okay. Then maybe queen to g5, but then there is queen to f6, and if I trade queens, then he can take with the king probably. And this e4 pawn is still weak, although I am up a pawn, this pawn is isolated, and therefore it will be weak for the rest of the game. Of course, any nonsense with king to f7 blunders the game away because of rook to f1 check, and there is no king to g8 because of queen to e6 mate. Of course, the king on g8 has no legal moves, therefore this is checkmate. And my opponent is still thinking, and of course this is good for me. Having more time on the clock is very, very important in all games, of course. And after bishop e7, I cannot forget that my b2 pawn is hanging. Of course, this is true. But even if he takes the pawn, I play c3, he takes the rook, and then I will definitely just mate him somewhere. And there is another way to mate him. Oh, I haven't seen this. Queen e6 blunders mate as well? Or does it? Maybe queen e6 holds, but then there is this queen to c8 check, and there is no king to e7. Why? Because bishop is on g5. Therefore, king will go to f7, and then I will play rook to f1 check, or I will even castle with check. After king to g8, it has to be just mate in some moves. Oh, there is mate. There is mate. Or is there? And of course, queen c8 just picks up b7 pawn. Maybe this was winning a move ago. Yes, but this blunders mate in 3. This blunders mate in 3. What? Queen c8, king f7, rook f1. There, checkmate. Of course, he can play queen to f5, but the game is lost. Queen to c8 check, king f7. Oh, there is he. What? He will play. What? There is king to g6. Wow, I haven't seen this move actually. Oh, I blundered. Although rook f1, there is king g6. What? Although I can just pick up a rook, of course. And then he has to go to g6 as well. Because then is this checkmate idea as well. I thought that he blundered mate, but he has this king to g6 option. Wow. This is really spectacular. Okay, should I play rook to f1 or should I take the pawn? Oh, then if I take the rook, then he has this move, queen to b6. And after this, he can take. if I take, he takes, but then I have just, I'm up a piece if I'm not mistaken. Therefore, queen b7 has to be good. Although, rook f1, king g6, if I calculate until the mate, then I will play, oh, there is queen to e8. If he takes, I win his queen. This is true because of rook to f5. But this is not the end. He can play bishop there. Bishop there, excuse me, check. After there, takes with check, and this doesn't work. Wow. Queen to rook to f1. There takes. Is there mate? I'm not sure. In this position, I can simply take. No, I cannot. What? What can I do? This would be mate, but I cannot play the move. Rook f1, king g6. h4. Or there is, there is this idea. Queen to e6 check. If king to h5. There, mate. There. It's still not mate, what? Yes, then this. Wow, this is so much. But rook to f1 should be the best move. 100%. And after king g6, queen there. If he takes, this just wins on the spot. Oh, why do you play king to g8? Why? What is your problem? King g. What is your problem? You were calculating on the previous move for like 10 minutes. What is wrong with you? This is just checkmate. What? But let me just show you the very, very important variation. This game lasted for 14 moves. Okay, but let's analyze the game. e4, pawn to c6, the Caro-Kann, of course. And now there are many options. You can take the pawn, you can play e5, knight to c3 is a move. But I like to play this f3 variation. And this is really advanced. This is, well, it's not advanced variation, but it is kind of dangerous to play. And after the d takes e4, f takes d4, now the f file has opened for my rook when I will castle. And after e5, of course, the only move. If I were to take, then there is this check on h4, picking up the rook, of course, in the corner. And therefore, against e5, I have to play knight to f3, the best move. And after bishop g4, bishop c4, now I'm threatening this idea of taking the bishop and forking, of course. Taking the pawn on f7 and forking bishop and king, of course. And the only good move in the position is to play knight to d7, protecting the e5 square. And what I was talking about. Now I cannot play knight to g5. Why? Because queen simply takes. And then I am down a bishop, of course. So after bishop c4, he simply played the move knight to f6. This is simply losing. And wow, one grandmaster has played this move. Wow. Or two. Two players have played this position. Crazy. After king to f7, knight takes c5, simply winning. And now queen takes d4. Now I play the move bishop to g5. And of course you cannot take the b2 pawn. Why not? Because there is simply checkmate. And after bishop g5, he played the move queen to c5. And now I can play queen to c8. Let me turn on the engine. And what I was calculating here, after king to f7, was that after rook to f1, of course king to g8 cannot be played because there is this mate on e6. But I was calculating king to g6. And of course I knew the position was completely winning. But probably there is only one completely winning move. Firstly, I was calculating queen to e8, which is not as good. Only plus 1.5. Because you can take the bishop. Why? Because after rook to f5, white loses due to this bishop to a b4 idea, and then the queen is recaptured, and just probably black just wins the game on the spot. So after rook to f1, king to g6, there is only one good move. This is queen to e6, of course. And now I was calculating king to h5, which is mate in 11, with bishop to d2. Okay, what? I was simply calculating here queen f7. Queen f7 you cannot take because of rook to f5 again, so you kind of have to play the move g6, I guess. And then bishop d2 is still mate in 7, but I was calculating queen f3, which is mate in 12, and after black takes the bishop, then I was calculating maybe queen f4, and after there g4 check, and after king to h4, I thought that g5 was okay, but it's not okay. Okay, but of course, king g6 in this position after queen to f7 check. I always have this bishop d2 idea, and then just some mating ideas, of course, on these two long diagonals. But of course, my opponent after rook to f1 played this stupid looking move king to g8, of course blundering mating 1 with the move queen to e6. So Fantasy Caro-Kann is very annoying for most of Caro-Kann players, and if you learn some tricks, learn some tactics in the Caro-Kann defense, in the fantasy variation especially, you should be much better with the white pieces, even in the classical games when people have 1 hour and a half to think. I won some pretty nice games as well. So if you like the video, make sure to subscribe to follow more such content, and see you guys in another video.